Hi everyone. Welcome to Tell Facebook. Join us. Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Dr. Renita Glenn White. I go by Dr. V in case you are new to me, and I am putting on my headset for uh, YouTube. So thank you for joining me. I may need to start doing these a little earlier because I'm getting sleepy. And I remember when I was a college professor, I actually did not like teaching night classes. So what am I really doing? Why am I doing this? And I guess because when I was, well, it goes back, well, first of all, hi, welcome. Thank you. I'm Dr. Brittany Siglin White. I go by Dr. V. I am a college professor turned life professor and professor ish. And really, it's all about strategic transformational coaching or life coaching, as some people will say. I have turned in my lesson plans for mathematics and all things STEM and leadership, which was science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and transforming that into helping you build a lesson plan for your life so you can have that dynamic life or build a kick a life plan for your life so that you're not just out here floundering, finding your harmony between your personal life and your professional life because it is more than just those two categories. They're between 5 and 15 areas of your life, and I am here to help you be the CEO of YOU, which is your Chief Expansion Officer of your own universe. And if you have not noticed, a lot of my analogies will make sure all my volume is turned up. A lot of my analogies will be in the form of school because I have 5 degrees. So I've lived in school. And not saying that I only work with people with degrees, but a lot of us talk from our experiences. And I use those analogies to make sure that I can stay on track and to make this relevant and practical. So, a lot of us who have degrees, we've been very successful in our professional lives. And then when we've gotten to a certain level, and when it's time for us to transition or reinvent ourselves, because that's what I'm in the business of doing, helping you to reassess, realign, reinvent, and realize who you really be at your core. It's like, okay, I've been doing this 10, 15, 20 years, and then what's next? And a lot of us get stuck because we haven't is we were doing well because college, whether you believe it or not, and I know people have their own thoughts about college, but so we're not talking about did I get a return on my investment or I got all these degrees, I'm not operating in what I'm supposed to do. But when you look at college, and me being a college professor now, I've seen the other side of it. College set you up for just the structure and to allow you to explore different things and to set you up with discipline, really, and to show that you are trainable and teachable. That's really the core of what college is. Now, I'm not going to go nerd out and tell you where college came from because I used to teach a class called The History of Education. I nerded out. That was like one of my favorite classes, but I'm not going to do that to you. If you're interested and you want to know about that, let me know in the chat below. But seriously, so what happened, I believe, and that came from my book, which I talked to you all about the other class, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment. I realized that we go hard in the paint for professional development, but we get to this level to where we are quote unquote stuck or confused or not knowing what else to do is because we haven't had that same structure for the next, right? So it's like going to college, you knew you had your course plan, the whole plan of development, your major, it told you step by step what to do. And although it was a linear path on paper, we know that it wasn't a true linear path, but we knew what to follow. So I was like, well, why can't we do that outside of college? Well, that's because we haven't come around to a new we have not linear, but we haven't come to a new like course development plan for all of the areas of our lives. So today I want to talk to you about how to coach yourself. So before I start, make sure that you are subscribing or that you're connected with me. I don't want to say like follow me because I attract people who are in leadership. People that I've attracted to are people that come to me for support. And I'm tapping my so I can get my notes together. People who come to me for support, they are leaders. I've coached millionaire business owners, and I'm not even a millionaire myself. And I used to feel intimidated by them, like, why are you asking me for help? But she was like, I'm not coming to you for business. And so that I was like, okay, so I have other things to offer. But millionaire business owners, people who own several businesses on their own, high level professionals, deans of universities, college professors, people who own their own like publishing companies. So I attract people who are leaders. So I don't want you to follow me because you're a leader yourself, but I do want you to connect with me, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram. Make sure that you connect with me by subscribing or hitting the button, especially so you can get notifications. And if you're watching on the replay, welcome. Please leave your comments as well because I appreciate that. I love to hear from people who are on the replay because I actually do go back and read the comments. And that's a practice I want to make sure that I do. And so if you notice, I've been teaching like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for like, well, last week got started. Let's not act like I've been doing this the whole time. But I was like, you know what makes sense for me, especially in this entrepreneurial journey, in this digital creator space, what makes sense for me, and the thing that I've been avoiding is like you know how to teach, you know how to this professor life. So why don't you just transform coaching, your business, your consulting business, your training is really a training and development company into that model because that works for me. And so one of my coaches, and she said something so profound and it just clicked to me. And I've been listening to her or been working with her for like a couple of years, like in different, different capacities. And she was like, people expect entrepreneurship to be linear, and a lot of people are selling like these programs or how to run a business, and it's a linear path, like do exactly what I say and you'll be successful, and that's not always true. You're only successful when you do what, I mean, you take that knowledge, what you learn, just like in college, but it only makes sense if it aligns with who you are at your core. So I know, like, I started trying to do different things and it was just wasn't clicking for me. And it was like, go back to what feels good. And I really enjoyed being a college professor once I stopped kicking and screaming. I really enjoyed being a college professor because I like the structure of it. Now, I'm not going to talk about the politics and what happened behind the scenes. They got a whole video, like a whole playlist, if you want to know about that on my YouTube channel. But turning this coaching space into getting back to teaching and giving you value and understanding, like, things that I want to teach you or share with you so you can live your best life possible, whether you hire me or not. That feels good to my soul. So I was like, let me do this. But I may say that I don't know about teaching the PM classes because that's the other thing. I started coming on live because I was like, well, people were parallelpreneurs, and parallelpreneurs, people who work their careers, and then they start building their business or doing their hobbies outside of that. So I was like, well, I want to connect with them there. But then I was like, I just watched a live stream earlier today, and so many people were on this live stream like at 1 or 2 o'clock. And I was like, you'll get on when you want, excuse me, when you want to get on. And then I know for me, even when I was working as a college professor, when I was in my coaching programs, I tuned in. I made sure my class was straight, but I tuned in at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Whenever the people said come on, I was coming on if I didn't have to physically, excuse me, if I didn't have to physically teach. So I may bump these up in the daytime, and you all let me know. I do like your live interaction, but if you're catching on the replay, I'll just have to see. I may do it like earlier so I can see. But anyway, so let me just share some things before we get into teaching because I am going to talk to you about how to coach yourself. So if you want to connect with me, of course, I'm on YouTube and Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. I'm trying TikTok, but I'm really focusing on Instagram and YouTube. But I do have a presence on LinkedIn, mostly with my newsletter. But I really want you to connect with me offline. And I'm going to share part of it with you with my personal guided retreat kit. You can get that as a complimentary resource. That's what I'll be talking to you from tonight. I'll be using that as a guide for my notes. And that way you can connect with me insert your name and your email so you can connect with me there and get that resource that is in it's in my link tree on Instagram. It's the first one there, personal guided retreat kit. On YouTube, the information is in the description box, or you can also go to my link tree, drrenitaglenwhite.com, drrenitaglen-white.com/, resources, and you will see personal guided retreat kit. The other thing, as we are in July and leading up to August, I've done a special called Renovate Me. It's a special invite. So Renovate Me, because I've been doing some renovations on my home and it just sparked. I am doing intensives. So my intensives, they are like 90 minutes, but you have like pre-work and post-work. So when you see it, don't just think, oh, this is what I'm paying for, only 90 minutes. Well, what I know I can give you, it is well worth it. But seriously, it's not just you're only looking at the 90 minutes. I do want to set you up with some pre-work so that you will have a structured and laser focused session with me. And then there are some follow up to make sure that you're actually doing the work. And that's, from my professor days, it's like, okay, before you come to my class, there are some prerequisites, especially, a lot of you who went, take the prereq classes so you can be prepared for the main things, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time. But I definitely don't want you to waste your time. I want you to come in right where you want to come in. So you will have pre-work to do. Then that way our laser focused time will be on building a strategy to help you, be more prepared for the remainder of quarter 3, and definitely for the rest of the year. You will start seeing people, especially coaches, are saying, hey, we're halfway through the year. You really do have time to get yourself together. It doesn't take that long if you have a clear, concise plan in action, and then accountability. First, being accountable to yourself, and then having someone you have to be accountable towards. That's why a lot of us were successful in college. And when I say successful, you finished. That's because you were being held accountable every step of the way. So why not give yourself that gift again? So we'll book that call, and then we'll have a virtual time. I'm bringing out the charts and the format, all of that, and so we can get you set up. So that way you don't have to say, "Oh my gosh, I don't feel like being in the program. It's not a program." Then it's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't feel like having to like dedicate all this time with her. 3 months, 6 months. That feels like a long commitment." A focused intensive session with some pre-work, present work, and post-work. And you can connect with me there, Dr. Bernita Glenn White /intensive, and you will see the special that I have for July going up to August, but you must book it within that time for that special pricing. Okay. So that's how we can connect there. Now, if you're watching this on the replay and it's like months later, it'll still be available, but you'll notice it'll probably disappear because right now on the website is a countdown, because I'm serious. So get in there while you can fit, especially for that price. And if you scroll up and then you'll see the actual price, you'll know it's like, yes, let me jump in. So if you just book it, and then we're not saying that you have to do it tomorrow or the next day, but get on the calendar for that special pricing, and then I will make sure that it is honored if you're locked in within that time frame. All right, so how to coach yourself. There are a few things that led me to want to do this class on this particular topic. One, if you don't know, I've been doing the Read the Bible in a Year challenge. And it's more for discipline, and then just really going back, reading more about the stories that I grew up with. Like, I did grow up in church and Sunday school and listening to all the stories. But now as an adult, listening to the nitty gritty and with a different perspective has really been eye opening. So I'm on day 49. Yay, me. Because, if you watch the other class, I told you I'd be quitting. I'm like, all right, like I can do a plan. I'm disciplined at doing plans, but then I get bored. Oh, excuse me, tired. In my mind, I'm telling myself I'll work out later today. Okay. But I get bored. So I'm like, okay, 10 days, maybe I can do 30 days because I know it's ending. But oh my gosh, 365 days is such a commitment. So it's more about disciplining myself. And so I'm in there with a group, and one of the people said, his name is Bert. So if you don't know him, go find Bert, right? Mainly on Facebook, him and his wife, is, and they do this couples thing. They have like a podcast or what they do. Go find them on Facebook. Really cool couple. All right, but he said like the what did he? Well, I can't check it because I'm on Instagram on my phone. But he was really talking about leadership and the weight of a leader. Because again, this is not a Bible study, but in Leviticus, because that's are we in Leviticus? Yeah, we're in Leviticus slash Numbers. Yeah, Numbers, Leviticus Numbers, and talking about the role of the priest and what they have to do and the things that they have to, how they have to show up. That was our last lesson that we talked about, in the previous class. But then how like the role, the responsibilities of a leader, the weight of the leader to make sure that they are doing the sacrifices exactly how God laid out, and the people could just show up and say here, but the priest had the, like, you have to, God gave them specific instructions regardless if the people showed up any kind of way. The leaders could not. And that just made me think about the pressures leaders have to show up and be at the top of their game all the time. And while I want to support and help everybody, the people that I know that are drawn to me are people who are in the top roles and always giving to themselves, and they don't have anyone else to pour into them. So, what do you do when the leader needs leadership, or when the coach needs to be coached? Or when you, like, I had one coach say, when the superhero has to take their cape off, where's the safe space for them? And I didn't say this, but people have come to me like I have been their safe space. And so those are the people that are naturally attracted to me. And I was like, okay. And so I had to get out of my own way and say, well, I'm not telling you how to do your job, but what I do know is how to help you be your own solution and draw out of you, because that's one part of my gifting as an educator, as a teacher, but I can actually see the solutions behind your problems. And in my consultant role, if that's what you want me to do, I can tell you exactly what to do, but it's more powerful when you come up with your own solutions, and I can be a part of that process. And that's the coaching side. There's a difference between being a coach and a consultant and a strategist. I can operate in all three, and that's, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so how to coach yourself. So I'm going to show you this. This is where I'm taking my notes. My personal guided retreat kit. And so YouTube, you can see that, the glare, and then Instagram, that is what you will see, the personal guided retreat kit. And okay, let me see if I can do both of y'all. Like, it's a whole, can you see it? Go to the go to the link and get it. But it's a whole kit. It's 13 pages. So what I did was, this is July. And one thing about Facebook and Google Photos, they're going to share some memories, right? So in 2019, that's really where I got really deep into the personal development space. And it was the summer of 2019. But prior to that, I had invested so much into business coaching program that was at the high level, because that's what I do. If I'm going to go do something, I'm going top of the line. And I've been that way, all my life. I just want the best of the best. I went to the top, and I'm not afraid to say this, but I was not mentally prepared to handle what was happening. And I learned that, and that's what really sparked me to really write this book, because even though I was Dr. Glenn White, 5 degrees, none of that meant anything when I came into the business space, because I was still dealing with an identity shift. At that time, I was still wrestling with being okay with being called doctor. I know that's strange. And it was just a lot of internal things. I really didn't deal with the death of my mom and grandfather, who died 3 weeks apart. All of the things that were happening to me in my doctoral program, things that were happening in my professional life, as a college professor. Personal life was like non-existent. At that point, it was like, I mean, I would go out and hang out, but I was at a certain age, wasn't married and having kids. I'm not saying that defines a woman, But if that's been a desire and it hadn't happened at a certain point, you're like, what is wrong with me? And then I had people who I respected as mentors growing up and would tell me, well, this is why you're not married. This is why you don't have with that, or you were so focused on your career, this, that, and the other. It was so much. And I didn't realize how much I had been holding and carrying, you know, in me. Cause it was like, look, I'm just gonna go to school. And school was my therapy. And it got to a point where I was really considering going either to medical school or law school after my PhD, because that was my coping mechanism. I was gonna go to school. That's one thing I was gonna do. I was like, that's what I can handle. That's what I can control. That's why I got 5 degrees. Not because I can learn, because I can control it. Now, if you agree with me, let me know if that's you too. But it, something had to give because I was losing it. I was on the breaking point. So I thought it was business coaching. I was like, let me do this business program. That's what it is, because I went to a different type of conference, something I had never gone before. And it was a lot of personal things that's coming up. But I was like, oh, personal development, who does that? Limiting beliefs. I mean, I teach beliefs about math, you know, and fix my growth mindset. I know about that in the education space, but personally, that just sounds too woo woo. That's too soft. Like, I do numbers, I do formulas. I am that person. I know technology, all of that. So I was like, oh, forget that. Let me go to business. And that showed me, like, oh, chick, you weren't ready. You were not ready. So I had to drop out of that program. And then I went to a retreat. But before that, because at first I used to tell people, like, yes, that's where everything started, but I had to really think about it. And I was like, no, I started coaching myself before I knew what personal coaching was, or personal development, self help. Like, don't get me wrong, I read books, but I didn't equate that to personal development, coaching, or self help. I started with books. And that I had to remember that. Like, it didn't start off at a retreat for me. I was already preparing myself for what took place at the retreat. And looking back, I cleared out a lot of stuff at the retreat because I did some foundational work. So I want to share a few things from the personal guided retreat kit on how to coach yourself. And I used to do this when I was a K-12 teacher before I even got into that space. I used to, before every school year, because school started in August, so every June or July, or sometimes at the beginning of August, depending on how things were going on, I would just take myself to a staycation. And this was before Dr. Glenn, this was Bernita. I would take myself to a staycation in my hometown. Luckily, one of my friends told me this, and I use it every single time. Thanks, Nicole. I live where people vacation. So I would literally go to a hotel and stay there for a weekend and just get myself together. I really didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't calling it a personal guided retreat back then. It was just, let me get myself together before I go into the school year, because I took teaching kids very seriously. I was like, I don't want to mess up anybody. So I made sure that I was centered, I was focused, I was going to be my best self, and I would, meditate. I was into transcendental meditation back then. Someone introduced me to that, and I got into it. I was doing like colonics, was detoxing. I was doing all of these things to prepare myself before I went to teach the little kids, well, sixth graders, and I still did that when I went to the high school level, and then when I became a district coach, I did all of that. So I would literally go with a journal, had no idea what this was, but it was just I was drawn to it. I would get these self help books and answer questions. I would reflect and just do those different things to prepare myself. And I did that often. And so when I got into the personal development space, and understanding was like, yeah, focus more, just like you would go and fill yourself up professionally, I had to do that personally. And I learned it at the retreat. Now that retreat was in Turks and Caicos. So I told y'all I go from 0 to 100. So I'm not telling you have to do that. I am going to start hosting my own retreats. And yes, we are going to go to some fabulous places. But I also, at that retreat, noticed that some people who didn't do the foundational work, they didn't get the shifts that they were hoping for. And I don't want that to be anybody. When I open up my retreats and it's going, call some with some commas, I don't want you to show up there and not really have a true breakthrough. I don't I don't want you just to have an aha moment. So I'm gonna help you have your aha moments by yourself. So when you connect with the coach, whether it's me or someone else, I want you to have a true breakthrough. So when you can go to another level, that's take time. Yes, you do have to take time for yourself. I did it every time, and then I kind of fell off, but I'm getting back on it. So, uh, personal guide to retreat kit. And then on YouTube, if you see in the comments, Shaniko Inspires, she was there with me. So she knows about the retreat experience. So it's not just me. I'm not making this up. I got a witness. All right. So personal guide to retreat kit, go to drvernitaglenn-white.com/resources. It's the first thing, or go to my link tree. You will see it. It says personal guide to retreat kit. I showed you the picture just in case. There it is. All right, so how do you coach yourself? So the guide tells you what to do, how to prepare yourself, what to like set the scene for yourself. But what I really want to focus on is the questions. So I go through steps and I want you to get it. So I'm not just going to sit here and tell you everything, because I actually do want you to go get it for yourself. I tell you how to plan a personal guided retreat kit. Now, this isn't the going, I'm not telling you what we did at Turks and Caicos. I'm not telling you, I've gone to several retreats. I've gone into the Bahamas and had retreats there. This is if you are in a staycation where you are, spend a couple dollars and just go up the road. Okay. It doesn't have to be super fancy. And no, you cannot do it in your house. I know some people used to ask me, well, can I just do it in my house by myself? No, you got to get away from your environment. And I know people can say, well, just go into another room. No, get out of the house. So go find a place, save up. So you save up for everything else, put a couple of dollars to the side if you have to get a babysitter, a friend, what to watch the kids, the dog, whatever. You owe it to yourself to get away for at least 48 hours. You got 48 hours. Trust me, you have 48 hours. You owe it to yourself to do that. So I tell you how to plan it, choose your environment, set your intentions, and plan. Now, for your personal guided retreat kit, now this is all about how to coach yourself, set the scene. When it's coaching, I know I don't want you to confuse it with therapy. I'm not going to talk too much about therapy because I'm not a therapist, but there is a difference. I've gone to therapy before and I've been coached. Very different things. If you are in a place where if you start self-reflecting and you feel yourself going into a dark place and you don't think you can get yourself out, you're not ready. I'm a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor, but I know enough to tell you you might want to go and get therapy first so they can help you with some other things. So I want to put that out there. If you are really spiraling, and because our thoughts, this requires you to go deep within yourself. If you do not feel confident or certain enough that you can pull yourself out and be okay, please seek professional help. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. But these are for my people who are like, okay, I'm good. Or if you start the process and you're like, whoa, this is too much, either don't do it anymore or go seek professional help. So I just want you to understand where you are and be honest with yourself. All right, so when it's time to coach yourself, you're going to look at how you're going to take care of your body, where you're going to explore the time and prepare yourself to reflect, and make sure you set the intention that this is for growth. When I was in undergrad, we used to go on these retreats for my sorority. We even still do that now in my grad chapter. And I'll admit, I cringe now when I hear like my soror say go to retreats, and not just in my chapter, but I have friends who are in different sororities, and they'll say chapter retreats, and then we all roll our eyes because sometimes it reminds me of the Real Housewives when they go on girls trip. That is not a retreat. I think that a retreat needs to have a professional, a liaison, someone who can structure the activities. Don't just show up like I was catching up on Married to Medicine. Yes, I've been watching reality TV because that's one way I bond with my little sister. We just talk about stuff like that. And now with this lens of, transformational coaching and life coaching, I'm like, I can see everybody's problem. But they will go, and Dr. Jackie and Dr. Simone be trying to help the people. And it's like, no, y'all need an outside person to help, take y'all through what y'all need to take through go through. And Real Housewives of Atlanta, that's on, and I'm catching up. My little sister is like trying to tell me to watch it, and they're trying to fix their issues. And I was like, no, you need an outside person. So don't think a girls' trip or a chapter retreat if you don't have a person there to facilitate. It's not going to go down. But anyway, but I was saying in undergrad, and I saw an old school post, an email, and I put it as a post like a couple years ago, and it came up on my memories. And I remember when one of my sorors, she was my line sister, and she was like, I don't want to go on no more retreats if y'all just gonna think that this is a vacation. I'm tired of us just talking about issues and then we come back and do the same stuff over and over again. And I was like, this is deja vu because in my chapter, it was the same thing. It was like, don't have us going to another retreat talking about the same issues and nothing is resolved. So you got to set the intention and have some ground rules, even when it's a personal retreat for yourself. And if you're thinking about having a retreat with someone else, you have to set the intention, and that is going to be with growth. We're going to reflect, we're going to explore, and have a focal point of how you're going to address certain things. Then I talk about being prepared and embracing your space. And then I tell you about the benefit of a personal guided retreat. I'll name some. One is finding clarity. A lot of people I know, clarity has been this, oh, I just want to get clear. I want to have clarity. Let me tell you a secret. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing in this moment. So it is not, don't be, oh, I was about to say a word. Don't idolize clarity, because that's not it. Now there are some things where it's like, okay, I do want to get clear to make sure I take the next step, but a lot of y'all know exactly what your next step is. So when I say finding clarity, is really, I should have said finding confirmation, because a lot of you know, if you sit down and be honest with yourself, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing in your next step. Tell me I'm wrong. All right, I didn't think so. And then I said, if you want to set new goals or prioritizing self care, self maintenance, because those are different, and then self love, and then taking time to gain perspective. There is time where you need to get away from everything so your mind can get clear, and then you can start seeing your situation without being in your situation. So that's what I talk about. So all of this is preparing to how to coach yourself, and then I give you some guided questions. So if you've listened to me before, I talk about there are between 5 and 15 areas of your life. I used to say five, and then I said nine, then I said 12, but I've been researching, I've been doing some things. So depending on how deep and how far you want to go, this is like I told you, the university of you, your own universe, your own university. If you want to focus on five, I talk about that in my book. I also have a holistic harmony challenge. If you want to take place in that, I did that live, and you can join in it for yourself and go through it. But then I also realized, so then I started talking about the 9 environments of you. Those are still, hi, welcome. I started talking about the 9 environments of you, and that's very powerful as well. Then I learned about the 12 areas of life, like from Life Book. That has been interesting. And then as I did some more deep dive, I discovered 15 areas. So you got guided questions, but I'm not going to take you that deep because I don't want you to overwhelm yourself on your personal guided retreat, because it's not just so much self reflecting. So here's one question. I literally wrote it in the retreat. Oh, snap. Show it. I literally wrote it in the kit. So I'm going to read you my actual question. So this is for real. Leaders go first. So I go first. And I tell you, I put it out there. It's a real question I wrote. It says, what am I so afraid of about really starting my coaching business? And a real self answer, I'm reading it. I said, I'm not afraid of starting. Every now and then I get flashbacks from my time as a college professor. My least favorite part of that job was reading the student evaluations. I was judged on who I was as a person and not necessarily my teaching methods. And I got a whole playlist on YouTube if y'all want to hear about that. As it relates to business, I'm trying to avoid the feeling I'll experience when I get rejected or judged by a potential client, or the feeling that will come when someone tells me I didn't help them, especially when I know I gave my all. So, see, those are moments. So, look, I've grown because when I did this way back when I was like boohoo crying. But I wanted you to show the power of truly being vulnerable and truly being honest with yourself. So before you start hiring a coach, and I know some people may say, like, why are you telling people to coach themselves when you're a coach? Because I want you to understand what it feels like so you can have a point of access. A coach does not fix your problems. Don't come to me telling me to fix your life. I know y'all had that TV show Fix My Life, but she really wasn't telling them what to do. It's like things we're going to help you uncover, unlock, unblock. That sounds really cool, but that's really what it is. Get all some of these other things out of the way so you can fix yourself and understand what you have going on. I just help you clear out the clutter and guide you to your own solution. So, if you can imagine how powerful it will be if you can have your own point of access so that you can be in partnership with your coach instead of having your coach tell you what to do. Now, if you want someone to tell you what to do, then you hire a consultant. You tell me, hey, Dr. V, consult me and tell me what to do and give me, I absolutely will. But the type of coaching I do, and you can go watch them on my YouTube channel. It's a playlist. It's three videos there where people have been brave enough to say, yes, you can record you coaching me. The Brilliant Power Hour, you can go see the difference. Go watch it. It's there, and you can see what I'm talking about. So you have to be willing to do the work. Absolutely, you do have to do the work. This is why I felt led to do this and show you because I've just seen too many people, especially in the transformational coaching space or the life coaching space, saying like, "Oh, I didn't get the help I needed," or they're too dependent on their coach and they're still in the same place. And it was like, no, you need to do some work for yourself. And because this is not a therapy session, you can go hire a therapist for that. But the coach is there to, you said this is what you wanted to achieve in life. Let's move some things out of the way and help you get your end result. Now, there are people who had life coaches for years, but they don't stay on the same problem. They keep elevating, right? So they retain to keep going higher and higher. But okay, somebody may not like this. But if your coach, put the mic for YouTube. If your coach if you've been with that coach for a while and you're still on the same problem, then some the coaching ain't coaching. It ain't adding up. All right, let me digress. All right. So I really want you to understand that you can coach yourself as a foundation. When I was a college professor, I switched to flipped classroom method. Well, I did that when I was a K-12 teacher because flipping the classroom is not a new concept, but slide new name on it, people get all excited. What it's really about is go do the work first, do the preliminary things first. And then when you come to me in this classroom, we can get to the real. You can ask me the real questions. I don't have to waste time on this foundational stuff because that's the stuff that you can do on your own. Now we can take a deeper dive into something that you do not understand. That is why it's important to coach yourself. So, no, I'm not worried about not getting clients or people are like, well, I can just go coach myself. You can only coach yourself to a certain point, right? So that's why the personal development industry exists. Just like any athlete, if you're an athlete, you can train and do the push-ups, the drills, and all of that by yourself, but you still need someone to check your form, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do, to make sure that all right, I know you did this workout and this routine. I need you to go. Further, I'm going to set this plan up in place so you can go to the next level to push yourself. Just like in college, can you learn everything on YouTube University? Probably. Can you get everything in the textbook and read it by yourself? Probably. But guess what? You won't. Or there's something in there. It's like, okay, I read these chapters, but I am still confused. That's why you need the professor. That is why you're in college. And then how to make it applicable to what you are learning. That's what a great professor does. That's what a great coach does. Can pull out different scenarios and to help you understand that particular concept. But you got to start, you got to have a foundation. You got to start working. I love flipped learning. Students didn't like it because they had to do the right. They sure didn't like it. There's another, she's another, she taught college as well. No, they ain't like doing the work. And that's why a lot of y'all aren't where y'all supposed to be with these coaches, because you don't want to do the work. You sit up there on sessions like, coach me, and the coach doing more talking. Absolutely not. You can see on my videos, it'd be some silence, it'd be some awkward moments. I'd be like, I'll wait, right? You have to do the work. So if you want me to just talk to you and motivate you all day, don't, I'm not the coach for you. I'm just saying. All right. So getting into the guided questions. Now, although I talked about the different areas of your life, I kept this kind of general for the personal guided retreat kit because I don't want you to go down into a dark place by yourself and not be able to pull yourself out. That can happen. I know I've done some exercises here by myself and I've been in fetal position and I'm like, oh gosh. And I was like, okay, I know not to do that. I know my limitations. So I kept these kind of like, so the areas, and I put a combination of the different books. This is why it's a complementary resource, because I put different questions about resources that I've used before I went to before I invested into a full blown retreat. So the questions that I over the years I would ask myself, thinking that I'm just doing self development. I mean, thinking that I'm just trying to be more aware of myself, trying to understand. It's like I have all of this professional knowledge, but why don't I know who I am, or why do I still feel unfulfilled in my life? And so I put some of those questions together and I tell you, who I got them from. And, I changed up different things based on my experience. So one category is happiness. And I'll read you the first question in each category. And if you want the additional questions, go to drbrittanytoglen-white.com/resources or click my link tree. And it's the first one there, personal guided retreat kit. So the first category is happiness. I think a lot of us say, I just want to be happy, but we don't know what happiness is. We haven't taken the time to define happiness. And so, what I realized about people who have college degrees, and this is not, look, if you don't have a college degree, I'm not excluding you. But again, that's just been my life. That's just my point of reference. Just like someone who's always been in sports, that's just going to be their analogy. So, they're not excluding people who didn't play sports, but that's how they made the connection. A lot of us, when we went through college, and at first, that first year, was like, oh, we're just out here, we're taking our foundational courses. But when it was time for us to pick a major, it was laid out for us and it was defined. You want to be an engineer? What kind of engineer you want? I started off as a computer engineer, by the way, computer engineering, but it didn't start in college. I did that in high school. I did some prep work. All right, computer engineering. Well, this is what a computer engineer does. These are the classes you have to take. They clearly defined what a computer engineer was. After my first semester, I was like, that ain't it. I don't want it, because that's not what I did in high school. It was fun in high school, but I don't want to spend the time looking for commas and semicolons in a program. And the guy I was dating at the time, he did that. He was in college before I got there, and he was in college after I left because I dipped. I was like, I switched to math and I was out. But they clearly defined it so I would not have to waste my time. So if you want to know like happiness, you have to define it. So it says, what brings you joy? Make a list. And when you're off in your personal guided retreat sanctuary, your 48 hours, this could take you 3 hours. It's like, because a lot of us don't ask ourselves what makes me happy. We say we want to be happy, but we don't know what that looks like. So now that you're by yourself with no distractions, make a list. So that's what I tell you about happiness. And then I have 6 more questions for you to go and deep dive into. This is why you need at least 48 hours. All right. So then I says The next category is strength over weaknesses. Notice I'm not going too deep. These are some things you've probably been thinking about already. Those of you who are in careers, they do ask you these questions. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Right? So the first question I do say, have you taken a personality assessment? Now I'm doing something on my own. I will share it later. I'm in the second phase of what I'm doing, but I can't wait to share with you what I'm doing. But I will say part of it does include assessments. The reason why assessments are important, not saying that they are you, but I do believe they give you a baseline. Just like when you went to school, you have to take an assessment and to see where you are, like benchmarks, like where, like your you are here button. So personality assessments, if you're honest with the questions, they do give you an overview of the personality. Hi, they do give you a personality, like a what you call it, a you are here moment, right? So I have, like, for example, the DISC assessment, DISC. Then I have Strength Finders as an example, and then Enneagram. I've taken all of them. By the way, I love personality assessments. Yeah, I took a whole bunch of them, and it. And I'm not saying like, oh, like D for disc is. I think it's dominance. I think that's what it is. I'm not saying like that's who you are, but you have some of those traits, and it's a great foundation for you to understand. That's why I act like this in certain situations. So I won't say like they are gospel, but it does help you uh, get an understanding of who you are and why you operate the way you operate. So if you're just not joining, hi, I'm Dr. Renita Glenn White. I go by Dr. V, college professor turned life professor, and I'm helping you to be the CEO of YOU, your chief expansion officer of your own universe, where I help you to reassess, realign, reinvent, and realize who you be at your core. And I am a credential and certified transformational life changer. And we are talking about how to coach yourself. And you can get this resource that I'm reading from. The link is in my bio, in my link tree, or you can go to drveronitaglenn-white.com/resources and you will see it. All right. So I do suggest that you do that. Again, I have 6 more questions underneath that, but that's a great starting point. The assessments mostly are free. Go get them. All right. So the next one on how to coach yourself is talking about self-discipline. And again, there are 6 questions. The first one I have the question to ask yourself, do you have a fixed mindset in some areas, believing your abilities are set in stone and cannot be improved? As many times as people want to say, "Oh, I am open-minded. I have a growth mindset." No, you don't. No, you don't. And I can say that about myself. Like I study growth mindset, especially in the education space with Carol Dweck. And I'm like, oh, you can learn anything. Anything is possible. But when you look at other areas of your life, you're like, well, that's just the way I am. Nothing's gonna change. That's called a fixed mindset. And be honest with yourself. That's why I said in some areas of your life, because it is very possible for you to have a fixed mindset, let's say in your finances, but you have a growth mindset like in relationships or vice versa. So don't just say, well, I only have a fixed mindset, because that's not always true either. Like you are open in other areas and you know that you can change other areas of your life. And then don't just say, oh, I have a growth mindset when you got money issues, or your relationship with money is like, well, it is what it is, or the rich keep getting richer. I'm always going to be this way. That's a fixed mindset. So be honest with yourself. And you're probably wondering, like, what does that have to do with self discipline? If you believe that nothing can change and it is what it is, then when people give you advice or perspective or tell you this is how you can change, if you don't believe it's possible, then you won't be disciplined enough to follow what their suggestion is for you to be successful in those areas. And then I have 6 more questions for you to see where you are in the self-discipline category. Again, we're talking about how to coach yourself. And then positive emotions. Again, I kept this light. I know you're probably expecting, like, tell me all the areas of my life. No, foundational work first. Foundational work first. So, positive emotions. the first question, when was the last time you laughed? How could you make sure you have more laughter in your life? You're probably saying, what does that have to do with coaching myself? When you get with a real transformational coach and it's time for you to dig down deep, you want an access point to your positive emotions, because I'm not going to say that doing personal development work is easy, or just read some self-help books. It's not like business coaching or financial coaching or relationship coaching, even though that's somewhat personal development. But when it's yourself, and you have to be like looking at yourself and seeing some things that you want to change about yourself, it's not always a great experience. So you want to have an access point to remind yourself that you are a fun person and that you are capable of living the life that you desire, because you did have those moments. So you have to to yourself, when was the last time I laughed? And if I have not laughed and you can't answer that question, then you come to a coach and be like, there's something there and it's really bothering me. I don't know what it is that's keeping me from laughing. Boom, now we can work. All right. Are you seeing how it works and seeing why it's important for you to start coaching yourself first before you start investing all of this money into a coach? I'm just saying. And I know you're probably saying, like, you're going to scare the clients away. No, I'm not. That means you do the work and then we can go where you want to go sooner, quicker, faster. So the last time you laughed, getting access to that positive emotion. And then the next area is thinking differently. I got that title. I altered it from someone, Rolanda Sullivan. You can look her up on Instagram or Facebook, and she talks about dreaming differently. I won't go too much into that because it's her thing, but it stuck with me. So I was like, yeah, not only do we have to dream differently, but we have to think differently. So I said, think of your life as a movie. The first thing you need is a script. Spend time in meditation. What does the next season of your life look like? What are your real dreams? Not the ones you share, not the ones you share on the vision board parties. Oh, I have a typo. I'm not changing it because it's already up. But you know what I'm saying. What are the ones, not the ones that you share at the vision board parties? I used to go to vision board parties, and they're fun, they're cool, but there's a moment, there's some times when, okay, maybe it's not you, but me. I've shared some things or I cut some things out on my board, and there were people like, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you have that? And kind of like, well, who do you think you are to want to have that? So when I would go to the other ones, I would just stay surface like everybody else, and my soul would literally cringe. And it wasn't until I sat there and got honest with myself and was like, well, these are the desires. Now, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. So, but I'm not here to tell you that you have to be one. But I believe that God gives us our desires on our own. And if it's something that keeps reoccurring, I believe that means He wants me to have it. So regardless, if you don't think that you want to live in a 50,000 square foot house, I'm just making something up, but it's in your soul, like you're drawn to that and you're like, I have no idea, why do I want this? Put it on the board. That's thinking differently. No, none of your friends want it, nobody in your family. But if you don't honor that, you're doing yourself a disservice. So this is why it's important to go away by yourself and be honest with yourself, so you don't have the influence of other people. And I'm not saying that everyone is, and it's not like oh, they're just hating. I'm not even gonna say that, because sometimes I think we just immediately go to, y'all hating on me. It's not that, but sometimes they just don't have your same desires, or they're not at the same level, and that's okay. And they're probably like either not understanding, or they don't. If they truly love you and they're your friends, they don't want you to set yourself up for the okey doke. And that's okay. But if you know within yourself, be honest with yourself, like, this is what I see, this is what I feel, that's what I want. Honor that. And it does require you to think differently. And so that's why I said, what are the dreams that you don't share with other people? Those are the ones that are deep down, and those are the ones that, like your GPS, your guiding system. All right, mental endurance. And I talk about this in my book. Talk about being being resilient, the bounce back muscle. and mental endurance. And I said, what is the most important decision in front of you right now? Why is it so important? And you're probably saying, well, what does that have to do with mental endurance? Because if you're like me, it depends on certain situations. This is why it's important for you to know different areas of your life, and this is why it's important to know your personality type. There are just certain things like I like to confront. If it's an issue, I'm stepping up, I'm talking about it. I am the one, I'm gonna bring it up, just put it on the table. I'm gonna confront. But then there are certain things where if it's something I may avoid until I get all the I will avoid certain things or making certain decisions. And in certain areas I'm indecisive and it can drain on me. But then I've learned to say no. You have to approach every decision like own up to it, and why. And I had to understand why am I backing down from certain decisions in this area when if it was in this area I wouldn't. And it's like you bring that same level of mental endurance. You will be okay. You can make decisions. If it doesn't work out, you're not going to die. You're going to be fine. You're going to get back up. You're stronger than this. That's part of mental endurance. So be honest with yourself while you're away in your quiet time. That decision you've been avoiding, you have to get to why you're not making the decision, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your business, whether it's about finances. You have to be honest with yourself and say, why is it so important for you to make this decision for yourself? I'm going to give you a bonus and tell you the second question for mental endurance so you can understand what I'm talking about. What choices do you most often second guess yourself about? So that's part of mental endurance. Do you make the decision and stand on it? It is what it is. Or when you make a decision, you're like, "Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have," or you vacillate, you're back and forth. Be honest with yourself because you go into a coach and saying, "All right, I got a problem. Help me." that's not that's not gonna work. But if you can go to your coach and you can pinpoint. Now, here's the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and say that you can answer all of these questions and you come to me and you say, "Oh, my grandma's calling me. Call you back, grandma. Hold on, grandma. Sorry, Instagram. My apologies, Instagram. Not sorry. My apologies." I'm not saying that you go to your coach and say, "I got all of these answers here. This is what I want to work on." I'm gonna tell you the secret. A true transformational coach is going to hear you, look at you, and then listen to you. And then if you've done the pre-work, it said, "This is what I know that you said you wanted. This is what you're telling me. Something's not adding up," or they're gonna probe deeper. So don't just show up to your coach and be like, "All right, I got this from a coach. She said she was good. I answered the questions. Now let's go do the work." That's not how that it's not going to work that way. Okay, so it's great that you did the foundational work, but a true coach is going to take this and then go deeper and then still have some other things for you to do. So it's not just done one and done because you answer these questions. All right, the next one is relationship inventory. Again, this is the last category because that's also important. Relationships can go real deep. It's different. uh what I'm trying there are different layers or tiers in relationships. Personal, I mean, not personal, romantic, family, friendship, business partners, professional relationships, associates, so different relationships. So it says, in what ways do you tend to isolate yourself? That's a funny question, even though I just said go by yourself. So I'm not talking about that. Don't just answer because coach told me to go have my personal guided retreat kit. You know what I mean? When you isolate yourself, you can be around so many people and still be isolated. So only you know those answers. And then so what a coach is going to do is when you can answer that, then the coach is going to follow up with that. And if it's a block there to why you're not going to, going to your why you're not going to your next level, then well, okay, let me back up. You're going to answer that and then be honest with yourself. And if it's something that I don't know what that's for. Okay. Why is it counting down? Instagram, it may shut down. I don't know why it's counting down. But anyway, so you want to answer that and be true and honest with yourself. And then a coach can help you to see where the connection is and things like that. And then I say how to return to your daily life. Why is that going off? Oh, it just ended. Okay. Well, YouTube, Instagram, y'all gonna have to come back. So YouTube, I'm back over here. It says, returning to your daily life. What does that mean? I realized when I invested in going to an actual retreat, we spent 7 days out there, and then my other one was like, I think 5 days, and then I did a 9 day. It was okay, this was cool, but what about when I get back home? So in the retreat kit, I tell you some steps on what to do when you come back and how do you self-reflect to keep the energy, keep the momentum. Because it's one thing to go get your life changed, like, oh my gosh, and I feel so much better about myself. And then a few days or a few weeks later, you reverted to where you were in the beginning. That's not cool. So there's some steps you have to take after you go on a personal guided retreat kit and after you go invest in a physical retreat. So I do share some steps with that. And then I tell you to celebrate yourself after you've done that. If you do this for real, it's a big thing that you were able to take yourself away to invest this time in yourself and then celebrate yourself. I had a coach to say we are under celebrated, and I would hear it and it sounds cute. But then when I really started thinking about it, it is so true. Like I started celebrating every small win. If you looked on my Instagram or in my stories, they gave me a report about my YouTube, and it was like you had like 4 new people to watch your video. I was like, oh my gosh, yay! Because I used to just let stuff like that slide. I was like, well, it ain't 100, and it was like, well, this is why ain't nobody watching because you weren't happy with the 4. So why would I give you 100 people watching it? So celebrate everything. So that way you're telling your brain like, oh, this is a great thing for me to do, and I want to see more of it. So celebrate yourself. So when you take yourself on their personal guided retreat kit, act personal guided retreat, you go through the steps and then you come back, you do what I suggest at the end. Be sure to celebrate yourself and keep the same energy going. And then I tell you ways to connect with me. So if you get that and you hear what I'm saying and you just want to go straight to it, I may tell you to still go download it, and then if you want to book an intensive call with me, and so we can take a deep dive and plan out an action because it's not a coaching program, it's not a full on package, but it's a set amount of time for us to develop a plan for you. Then we can do that. And then there are some follow up things to make sure that you're being on track and that you are operating at the level that you so desire. A lot of people like to do something quick like that because it's like a tune up or it's like a jump start. It's like before I get into a 6 month thing with you, let me see how I do with this. Or some people may book an all day VIP day with me and lay out an actual plan for them to get things in place, get it out, and then have a plan. So I just want to say this, it is not like a therapy session where you just come and just dump it all out. We may have a little bit of that in the beginning, but we're going to get to the root of certain things, especially when you go through the steps I want you to go through. Tell me your goals and what your focal point is, and then we'll have some things put in place for you to keep moving forward. And, I'll let you know the next steps after that. All right. So that's what I have for you. Again, the personal guided retreat kit. I want you to go and get that for you. Check your email if you sign up for it. And then if you're like, that sounds great, the intensive session, you can also, it'll be on drvereniticlyn-white.com/intensive. You'll see in my link tree is Renovate Me, the special invite that I'm doing for July and August. And yeah, let me know what stood out to you the most. Make sure you share this. And I didn't get a chance to say that on Instagram, but you can go watch my replay on Instagram and share that too before it gets cut off. Share, and make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification so that you'll know when I go live. And I will see you for See you on the other side for our next class. And remember to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye. Thanks for watching.